Well, hi guys. Welcome. And who dat? I'm Joe. Thanks for tuning in to Rosenfield 10, where I cover our beloved Bless You Boys in black and gold, the New Orleans Saints. Are you a Who Dat fan? If you're a Who Dat fan, subscribe to my channel. I love the Saints as much as you do, and I talk about them all the time. Subscribe to the channel. It's free. You'll find out what I'm thinking, and you let me know in the comments what you're thinking. And today, we are going to look at the Saints roster and try to determine what's their greatest positions of need. This will fluctuate throughout the season, and I will be doing updates all season long. It's never too early to look at our team from an objective point of view, figure out where we are lacking in talent, and try to figure it out. So, as the season moves along, we will see roles develop for players. Players will show improvement, get more playing time. Some players will show that they're not worth the paper their contract was written on, and we'll have to get some help in that department. And some positions are already pretty obvious, regardless of the fact that we just started this season. So I'm going to do this often during the season, at least once a month. And we'll update the positions of need for this team, try to figure out how we can make this team better. No one expects the Saints to compete this year with the rookie coach and a roster turnover that's just begun. And we're gonna hit it hard again next year and the year after that. I mean, already we've gotten all of our rookies involved, picked up a couple of extra rookies on the roster. We've got 11 of them on the roster right now. And in the upcoming draft in April of next year, we're going to be addressing certain needs for the team. So I figure let's look at the 10 most pressing needs for the team now. And in a couple of weeks or a month from now, we'll revisit this and everything will adjust. Now, I don't have these positions written in order of the strength of the need, but I do have all 10 positions and I've broken it down. Here it is right here. 5 offensive positions, 5 defensive positions. Every time I do this, I'm going to pick 10 positions. Just so happens to break up pretty evenly right now. On offense, we're looking at quarterback, we're looking at wide receiver, tight end, offensive tackle, and interior offensive lineman, primarily guard. Those are the 5 positions I've identified right now for this team as positions of need on the offense. And all of these can fluctuate, and we'll break it down and talk about each position specifically. Let's look at the 5 positions on defense. I've got defensive end, defensive tackle, edge rusher, which could be outside linebacker or it could be a quick defensive end. I just categorize it as edge rusher. And I think we need help in the back at cornerback and at safety. Now, these are the 10 most important positions of need for the Saints right now, and let's break it down. We're going to start with the 5 positions on offense first, and I'm going to pull up the roster here so you can take a look at the offense as we go through this. Now, of course, the roster is going to change throughout the year, and free agents may be acquired. Some players may start to play really well, some players may start to play poorly. All of this is in flux. That's why I want to do it multiple times during the season. So a lot of this will change. But number 1 on the list, of course, is quarterback. We don't know if we have the future in Spencer Rattler or Tyler Shuck right now, and we're going to learn a lot through the course of the next 4 months. But I've got to indicate quarterback as a top need for this team. I don't I don't particularly see Shuck or Rattler being the future. They might be a good stopgap between now and then, but If we finish with a bad record this year and we have a top 5 or top 10 pick, it's one of those chances you have where you can actually get involved in drafting a franchise quarterback, a future quarterback for this team. So I think we're going to see Rattler for a few games. I think eventually Shuck's going to get the start. We're going to have a nice little portion of Shuck, whether it's 7 games, 8 games, 10 games. I think it's going to be 11 games. And hopefully, if we're in a position to draft a quarterback, we're not fooled by the performance of either one of these guys. And we go ahead and get the quarterback of the future, or, you know, maybe we'll be passing up on either one of these guys too quickly. If we go ahead and grab a quarterback in the first round next year, might not have enough data to figure it out. Franchise quarterback. We'll see, but it's here as a position of need. It's going to stay that way probably throughout the season, even if Rattler or Shuck prove to be excellent quarterbacks. Even if we start winning because of these guys at the end of this season, you're still not 100% sure because the sample size is so small. So the quarterback, of course, is here. I don't have running back mentioned in the offense here. Alvin Kamara is a good player. We've got Kendre Miller and Devin Neal as backups right now, and both of them are pretty young, and either one of them could develop into a future starter. I mean, Kendre Miller looks really good. I don't know what kind of contract he would demand in a year or two. And Devin Neal looks like he's going to be a nice player. He'd be a good backup. You know, if Kamara decides to retire next year or move on or whatever, running back, I had to mention it. It's not here right now. Next one on offense is wide receiver, and for lots of reasons. We lack the size. So Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, both of them are entering in a contract year this year. You know, both of them are going to be looking for a big contract next year. So what kind of production are we going to get from these two players this year? And then how does that translate into the salary cap and whether we can keep one or both or any of these players? Because what I think the reality of the situation is with Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, I think they've shown just enough in the pros for them to be sought after players. Let's say this. If we're really bad this year, right before the trade deadline, you could probably move Chris Olave or Rashid Shaheed and get something pretty nice in return. I think that's their value right now, regardless of how they play this particular season, whether they put up really good numbers or whether they're just average. A lot of it'll be attributed to they're on a bad team. I just think there's a lot of teams that would be interested in either one of these guys, especially if a team's lacking a speed element. So, yeah, you might get a second round pick for either one of them if you want to trade one of them off. But let's not talk about trading as if that's something I want or something that's definitely going to happen. We're talking about the position of need of wide receiver and why I think it's important. I don't think you can pay Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed between 20 and 30 million apiece and keep both of them on your team next year, especially when you think of the output that we've had on offense with both these players over the last couple of years. We've got this year to look at it. We're always wishing for the best. But if it doesn't come to fruition, then is it really worth $60 million to keep these two players? Yeah. A lot of you are thinking because they're not playing at that top 10 wide receiver level in the league, then they won't demand so much money. Well, there's receivers making 30 million, 40 million a year. I think, is it Garrett Wilson that just got 30 something million? Olave's teammate. A lot of people think Olave would demand the same amount. Olave doesn't have the output. So he's got a decent output, though. I can see Olave and his agent demanding 25 to 30 million a year. Is that too expensive for us? It's too expensive for me if I was running the Saints. Rashid Shaheed, it's a whole other story. An undrafted guy who doesn't have the size. And yeah, he's a big play waiting to happen, but you want to spend 30 million a year for that? And think of the output we've gotten from Rashid. You know, he stays healthy. He's a good deep threat. But yeah, I don't think either one of those guys is worth 25 to 30 million. That's just the way I feel. And I feel like both of them could demand that. And I feel there are teams that might think they're a missing piece. So I think the main reason we got Vele and Trey Palmer so late in the process is because we wanted some good depth and youth under contract because we're going to see these two wide receivers, Olave and Rashid, move on. At least one of them. I don't think you can keep both of them. So you've got Vele under contract this year, next year, and the year after that. He's a big body. Hopefully he develops into something that, we'd be pretty good rolling out either Vele and Olave or Vele and Rashid and have ourselves a nice little young wide receiver tandem, even though you're not keeping your two starters because of contract reasons. Um, Trey Palmer's another one. We got him on the contract this year and next year. So let's say worst case scenario next year, Olave and Shaheed price themselves out of being on this team. At least we have Vele and Palmer under contract, young, cheap, and we can go and do what we have to do, whether it's address it in the draft or whether it's to hit it hard in free agency or whether it's to spend that money to retain Olave and or Rashid Shaheed. Getting Vele and getting Palmer was a good move in my opinion because you got youth under contract cheap and it'll be here for at least the next couple of years. So eases the bumps and bruises in case you lose Shaheed, Olave, or both of them. So, but it is a position of need, obviously. The next one on the offense, tight end. Oh yeah, Juwan Johnson, good receiver. Not great, good, because he has a problem with drops. I'm not going to fault him for dropping the pass in the end zone this past weekend, but yeah, if he was a bona fide number one, can't go without him type of tight end, he can make that kind of catch and win games for us. And yeah, Johnson's not that. We have him for 3 years. So he's on our team and he's a good receiver. But I think if you address tight end in a draft in the first 3 rounds, you're going to get yourself a really good tight end. Probably a guy that's better overall than Juwan Johnson. I know you're taking a shot in the dark. You never know what you're going to get. But Juwan Johnson at 231 pounds is never going to be a good run blocker, no matter how much he practices. It's just not going to happen. He's going to fail time and time again. And he's also a receiver that drops the ball quite a bit. Now, 11 targets, 8 catches last week, pretty good. It's just something you have to think about. I think a tight end in the first 3 rounds of a draft, you'll be getting a guy that even though he might not be as good of a receiver as Johnson, he'll be a way better run blocker. And chances are, if he's a top 3 round draft pick at tight end, he's pretty productive as a wide receiver. And like I said, Johnson's a former wide receiver. We all know that. But he's a former undrafted wide receiver. He's not the greatest wide receiver to begin with. He just has those abilities, and he can't catch the ball sometimes. Sometimes it seems like he's not getting open. I mean, this past game, 11 targets, 8 catches, seemed like he got open quite a bit. So we'll see if this continues. But I think we need a tight end in the room. Foster Morrow's not getting any younger. Taysom Hill's gonna retire soon. Foster Morrow's that type of complete tight end that you want, but he'll never be athletically gifted as a receiver as Johnson. Morrow's had his share of drops too. But Morrow's a really good run blocker. At 251 pounds is what Morrow is. He can run block. But there are tight ends coming out in the in early rounds of the drafts and the last few drafts that are 6'5", 260. And, we've got one of those guys on our team right now with Mataval, seventh rounder. I think tight end is a good position to address early in the draft. I think you go and get yourself a stud. You go and get yourself a guy that's worth paying 10 million a year eventually, because you're going to have him on a rookie contract at first. Somebody like Michael Mayer, or if you get lucky and strike gold, that dang tight end class a few years ago with Sam Laporta and Trey McBride in it. We had who else was in it? Michael Mayer. We had to get one of those tight ends in that draft, and we just didn't. And I thought this was another year that the tight ends were pretty good. We had to get it. We got one, but we got him in the seventh round. So I really think tight end's a position we need to address early. However, is it the strongest position of need when you have Johnson under contract for 2 more years? That's up to you. Let me know in the comments what you think about that. The next position on offense is offensive tackle. My problem is the depth. We may have the tackles of the future. Banks looks great. Fuanga looks great, except for last week. And I'm kind of thinking it was an injury thing. I'm kind of thinking he's still getting used to being back on the right side, too, and getting used to a new playbook and everything else. So getting used to working next to Ruiz. Oh. So yeah, you don't need two starting offensive tackles. You don't need a starter. You need depth. We had offensive tackles on this team throughout the offseason, and then right before the season started, we got rid of all of them and went and grabbed two new guys, which tells me we didn't like the depth very much. Just run and go grab two other guys. This has to be better than what we had. Now, you got to mention Landon Young. Perhaps Landon Young would be that third tackle if he didn't get hurt this year, but he's gone for the year now. And I don't know if you re-sign Landon Young to another contract. So I think backup offensive tackle is something that needs to be addressed. Preferably in the draft, you get somebody in here with a mid-round pick, something like that, who's going to be in here that's worth keeping after the offseason is over. You had a bunch of undrafted guys competing for backup roles in this past offseason. You got rid of all of them. Wesley's still on IR, and he could come back. But yeah, I think you need to address offensive tackle early in the draft, like round 3, round 4, round 5 kind of thing. Mid round, but you get them in the building early. You don't wait till right before the season starts and go and grab somebody and hope it works out. It has to be addressed. We can all agree on this. Offensive tackle, the backup has to be addressed. I know it sucks. We spend all these draft picks on tackles and we just can't seem to get it worked out. Maybe we find a free agent that can come in and be that third guy, that swing tackle guard type. Somebody that can start 4 or 5 or 6 games for you. Or you can make it a priority in the draft next year. The last position I'm going to talk about is interior offensive lineman, and that's mostly focusing on guard. When you think about Penning and Ruiz, when I think about Penning and Ruiz, I think about two starters at guard that you can probably improve on. We don't know yet with Penning. Maybe he comes back, he's healthy, and gets out there at guard, and he looks really good. And if that's the case, he's a free agent next year, and we're going to have to pay him to keep him. I think Trevor Penning is going to demand on the open market at least $8 million a year. I think, despite everything that we've been through with Penning, other teams are going to think they can work with him. And I think that's probably a base starting point for his salary. 3 years, 24 million, 12 million guaranteed. That's what that guy's going to make on the open market. Do you want to pay Trevor Penning $8 million a year? It may be more than that. Some of you may be thinking there's no way in hell he'll get league minimum. Well, if he does that, then yeah, let's keep him. If he's any good and he's worth starting at left guard, then I'm thinking left guard starting pay. So 4 or 5 million at the very least. But I'm setting that number at 8 million. And on the other side of the line at guard, you've got Cesar Ruiz, who seems to be regressing. His best year was when we had Doug Marone and nobody else was performing well under Marone. Maybe Cesar Ruiz needs one coach like Doug Marone to get on his ass and teach him that way, and then everybody else can just do what the offensive line coaches are telling him to do, and the Ruiz can just do something else. Because at this point, I want another guard. At this point, we're all thinking it. Torricelli Simpkins might should just start at right guard. If Ruiz is going to keep playing like this, you might as well put the rookie in. That we're all thinking it. I don't want to be reserved to think that Simpkins is going to turn into a good starting right guard and we don't have to address guard. We can just get rid of Caesar when his contract is up. Simpkins takes over at right guard and we don't miss a beat. That's a nice thought and it's a possibility. But Dylan Redunz is on a 1 year contract as well. Penning is going to be looking for a new contract. Redunz is going to be looking for a new contract. So I think guard, interior offensive lineman, perhaps a swing guard center type uh, is going to be important. Now, as far as center goes, you've got McCoy, and then you've got Fortner, who we don't know anything about, but you may be able to improve on that with a guy like Will Clapp if he were healthy. And you might end up getting a free agent, sort of like Will Clapp next year, to be the swing center guard, or even a free agent swing tackle guard. But I think interior offensive lineman is pretty important. If I were to rank the offensive positions and choose what I think is the most important, well, that's up to the quarterbacks. But it's gonna be quarterback if Shuck or Rattler can't prove to be the future of this team. And it's not looking good so far. All right, now we're going to pull up the defense over here and focus on this bottom line. Defensive positions of need for the Saints. And I have them listed not in order. That order is up to you, and you let me know in the comments if I'm forgetting something. The only defensive position I don't mention here is inside linebacker. Now, inside linebacker could be a position of need if you consider Demario Davis's age. You think Davis retires. Naturally, you want to address middle linebacker. Well, we did this past season with Danny Stutzman, this past draft, and Stutzman looks good. We addressed middle linebacker the year before that with Jalen Ford, and he missed time with an injury, but he's looking really good now in his second year. So we've got really good depth at interior linebacker. If Mario Davis decides to retire next year, we still have Pete Werner, we still have Jalen Ford, Danny Stutzman, and Isaiah Stallberg, who is going to stay on this team if he keeps performing on special teams the way he is. And looked pretty good at linebacker in the preseason, too. So I think we're really good at middle linebacker. I don't think, even though Demario Davis is an older player and may retire at any moment, I don't think it's a huge position of need for the Saints. I think Danny Stutzman steps right up and does it. I think Jalen Ford steps right up and does it. Chances are the Saints are going to put Pete Werner at middle linebacker if Davis retires, and Stutzman's going to be playing next to Werner, something like that. This defense, you probably only going to have two out there at a time. So I like the depth at middle linebacker. Let's look at the other positions I think are more important to address as it stands right now. Starting with defensive end, we have Brian Bresee, we have Vernon Broughton, the rookie. Bresee gets better at stopping the run. We've got a good starter in Bresee, but we still carry around Nathan Shepard, Jonathan Bullard, because we like having someone better at stopping the run than Bresee. Vernon Broughton's a guy that's learning right now. He's got long arms, and I think he can manage versus the run really good. As far as pass rush goes, he's got to develop that. But I think there's some potential here for Broughton. In my opinion, Broughton was a fourth round projection who I probably wouldn't have taken a shot on until the fifth round. We get him in the third round. I think he was a healthy scratch for this first game, his first game as a rookie. But yeah, there's potential there. Overall, I just think that getting some better players at defensive end, players that are good at stopping the run, it's always a must for me. If we're gonna if we're gonna lose anybody on this defensive line, bringing in run stoppers is not a bad idea. I don't want Nathan Shepard on my team forever. Jonathan Bullard was a guy we grabbed off the street. So you grab another player like Vernon Broughton in the middle rounds next year, and I'll feel a little better about the situation. Unless Brissy decides to stop the run as well as he rushes the passer and blocks field goals. Brissy is such a stud. I love him. I love him. I just want him to stop the run. I, I picture a day when Brissy finishes a game and he has six total tackles and he was effective against the run. He gets that sack or two sacks, not two tackles, six tackles. All right, that's my spiel for defensive end. How about defensive tackle? Yeah, this is a must for me. We love Davin Godchall right now and Christian Boyd. We love both of them. But I think Boyd, being a six-round pick, isn't the guy that's going to be the future. And certainly not Davin Godchall. He's only got a few years left, if that. Now, he may play until a twilight age, but I don't know how long his contract with the Saints is right now. We may have to re-sign him. We traded for him, so he's finishing out his current contract. I don't know how many years he has left on that. Be interesting to look into that. Something I'll do as the season progresses, but I think if you can get yourself a true nose tackle, a guy that's young, bring him in here, somebody that may eventually be better than a Christian Boyd. Remember, Boyd is from a really small school. We got him in the sixth round, and he couldn't get on the depth chart ahead of Ridgeway last year. Boyd stayed on the team, but he was a healthy scratch. He wasn't as good as Ridgeway. Now this year he's surpassed Ridgeway. So yeah, to me, Boyd is hovering around that really good backup to third string type of nose tackle. Now he's what we got for a backup right now. But I think if we drafted a guy like that in the middle rounds, a nose tackle type, I think he could give Boyd a run for his money. It's a position that we need in this defense. And if we keep Brandon Staley around, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we focused on that in the upcoming draft. Edge rusher or outside linebacker. We've got Chase Young, we've got Carl Granderson, and we've got Cameron Jordan. It all looks pretty good right now. We've got a draft pick in Fadil Diggs that we're going to try to keep around somehow. And we've also got the free agents that we acquired this year, Chris Rump and Jonah Williams. Chris Rump on the team right now. He looks good as a solid number 4. But of course, I mentioned edge rusher because of the age of Cam Jordan, the chances of him retiring. His play goes down a little bit as he gets older. Yeah, he looked great. I don't know if he's going to be doing this in week 12, but he looked great in week 1. But you never know what you're going to get with Chase Young. The injury thing is always an issue with him. And Grando on the other side is not getting any younger. So you might be good with Young and Grando for the next 2 or 3 years. But I think you can address it. I think and if you can get an all-star type of edge rusher at any point, you can grab them. So it doesn't really matter who's on your team. If you're in the position in the draft to get the best edge rusher in a certain class, you could probably do it and yeah, upgrade your team regardless of who's already there. So trade bait, but edge rusher's pretty important to me because of Cam. So Cam leaves, and you're going to need to have somebody step up eventually. So keep plugging away at it. It's a position. It's one of the most important positions in the draft. Edge rusher, along with cornerback, quarterback, wide receiver, offensive tackle. So edge rusher. Yeah, always in the market for that. And the last two on defense, I'm going to talk about cornerback and safety. Cornerback, yeah, you're all telling me right now. Yadam's no good. Kool-Aid McKinstry's no good. Alante Taylor can't play on the outside. He's only a nickel. So yeah, some of you may think we need more than one cornerback. We might need a couple of them. Quincy Riley's there. Some of you want him to start right now. I always liked Quincy Riley. I always had him as a fourth or fifth round draft pick for the Saints. I'm glad we have him. Best case scenario looking at these cornerbacks is that Isaac Yiadom, I think we signed Yiadom to 3 years. I'm pretty sure we did. So in the next year or two, ideally, Yiadom's your number four. Kool-Aid develops into a great number one, at least a really good number two, and Quincy Riley develops into another really good cornerback. Some of you may be imagining Riley being number one. So yeah, best case scenario, 3 years from now, Quincy Riley, Kool-Aid McKinstry's are your shutdown corners. Alante Taylor still out there producing. Taylor's up for a contract after this year, so he may demand quite a bit of money. And then what do you have after that? Yeah, Yadam. So you got Ugo Amadi, you've got Rajon Wright. So everybody knows cornerbacks pretty important. I'm not going to get delusions about Quincy Riley. I'm going to remain firm that McKinstry has the potential to be a really good number two. You may want to invest in a top-notch cornerback in the next couple of years. If you don't put the money out to keep Taylor, then yeah, you're going to need even more depth. You're going to need even more bodies. But if you do spend the money on Taylor, you're still getting that star player, and you would really like another cornerback on the outside. Here's hoping that Quincy Riley develops into a good outside corner, playmaking guy, and this doesn't have to be a position addressed in the next draft. But it's on this list right now. And the final one is safety. Yeah, Tyrann Mathieu retires. We go get Julian Blackmon. He looks great. Julian Blackmon gets hurt. So, what do you do next? Saints are in flux at this moment as I record this video. Not quite sure what we're going to be doing at safety. Your starters appear to be Justin Reed and Jordan Howden and Jonas Sanker. Now everyone wants Sanker out there, but Sanker's not the best deep safety. He's a better in the box safety. Sanker has to show he can play deep well. And if he can do it, pretty average or a little above average, he'll get the start ahead of Jordan Howden because Howden's not very good in the box. And Howden is hot and cold, but he is better suited to play deep. So maybe you address now Reed is better in the box. Howden's the only one that's ideally better deep. So what do? You address safety and try to get somebody with some experience, good abilities playing deep. Marcus Williams comes to mind as a free agent. We freed up money by restructuring Taysom Hill's contract, and I thought we might address safety if there was one in free agency that we could go and get. And that's something I'm going to keep my eyes open on. I like the idea of Sanker developing. I like the idea of playing Sanker next to Reed for the time being. I think Howden's a good guy you can mix in and out there. And you've got Terrell Burgess, who spent all offseason with us. I think you bring him up. He's on this depth chart, and he's not even officially on the team. I just figured this would be the move the Saints would make. Doing a preview video for the upcoming game against the Niners later on this afternoon when the injury report comes out, and maybe we'll have some roster news by then. But even if you don't bring Burgess back, even if you do bring Burgess back, you still need, talent there. So that's it. You guys let me know what you think about positions of need for the Saints. I'm gonna update this every couple of weeks, at least once a month. We're going to arrange it. It's all going to be different. Maybe eventually I'll put it in order. Maybe eventually you'll have more offensive needs than defensive needs, stuff like that. But it's a good exercise. I like to know what you guys think. Should I have included running back or middle linebacker, or are these the 10 positions that the Saints most need help with? Maybe you think it's punter or kicker or long snapper. Let me know in the comments. And I'll do another update on this really soon. And until the next one, subscribe to the channel so you can get the previews and reviews of the games. We're good into the season now. Let's see what happens. 0-1 right now. Let's see what happens. And until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Who dat?